good evening to you all. I can see one or two persons I know, like Surrender and the rest. So it's nice joining you here on this platform to share knowledge or to share a paper on capacity building in agrometeorology. So with your kind permission, may I, and thank you, Nabansu, for giving me this platform to share with colleagues here. We are going to share knowledge. This will be very interactive, I believe. So I can see Rivaldo is also here. Thank you for the support from Brazil, and glad to be here. So thank you for this platform once again. I want to share my slide with you, if that is fine, so that I can start the lecture in earnest. I am trying to share my window. Okay. Okay. So, can you see my screen? I need a confirmation, please. It's already full screen. I don't know if it's the internet. It's already full screen on me. I made it full screen. I don't know. And anyway, let's start and see how it goes. Okay, so again, the topic I was given, capacity building in agricultural metrology. So we'll be discussing how we'll strengthen our skills, the system, and services for climate smart agriculture. As introduced, my name is James Ali Jempi Adamu with the Nigeria Meteorological Agency and currently the Chair Service Commission on Agrometeorology. And I'm glad to make this presentation. So quickly, let's start by just simply, we know this as agrometeorologists. Well, let's see what is agrometeorology. Now, agricultural meteorology simply means the linkages between weather, climate, and agricultural production. Now, what does this mean? It's the application of meteorological information, because we need to have this understanding for us to be able to know the areas in which we need to build our capacity. So application of meteorological information in agriculture is one of the key things we do in agricultural meteorology. And what do? We help farmers to manage climate risk. We also support decision making on the basic operation in agriculture, like planting, irrigation, fertilization, use of fertilizer, pest control. In the livestock industry, we also look at things like how heat stress affects livestock itself, production, best time and timing of key operations and livestock operation, like mating, like calving and the rest. It's also essential for climate smart agriculture and food security. So we play, as agrometeorologists, we play a key role in food security, because when you look at the 4 dimensions of food security, talking about availability, what constitutes the availability of food, then you need to talk about, you need to have an understanding of climate itself, and how does climate variability and change affect the availability of food. We look at access to food. What are those key things that hinders access to food? Now, how does climate affect the physical availability of food and the economic access to food? The physical access to food and economic access to food can be hindered or affected by climate. And also, it affects biodiversity, the climate. So understanding climate and linking it to agriculture will enhance food security. Now, also, why capacity building matters in agrometeorology. Why do we talk about capacity building in agrometeorology? Now, strong agrometeorological capacity reduces climate vulnerability. Now, a lot of people are vulnerable, but how do we build them to understand the variability in climate, the risks associated with production during climate extremes, and how do we build their capacity to reduce their level of vulnerability? And now, if we're able to do that, what do we achieve? One, it increases how climate affects yield, either crop yield or livestock production. Farmers also need timely and accurate advisories. So we need to build our capacity around this, the farmers' capacities also around these areas. Many regions lack trained personnel and tools. Uh, Basically, one of the most affected region is region Area 1, that is Africa, where we lack these personnel and tools. So there is a need to build capacity. Now, why do we build capacity? To enhance resilience, productivity, and early warning systems, because the climate is changing. Now, the UN early warning for all. How do we build a capacity that everyone is not left behind across Asia? It's huge. How do we make sure that this information gets to those that are highly vulnerable on time and in a usable format? So capacity building is not optional, but it is fundamental in modern agriculture because the climate is changing. So it is very, very key in addressing the issue of climate change and vulnerability as it affects agricultural production. Now, what are the core components of capacity building within the agrometeorology? So I've broken them down into four. Human capacity. Now, within human capacity, yeah. Oh, wow. I probably, it's on the first slide. Wow. And I'm moving it here. So probably it is an issue of connectivity. Or do I send the slide to you so that probably it may work faster there? Okay, okay. So let me see if I can send it to you now immediately, and it will help. So sorry about that. Oh, okay, okay. So sorry about that. So I shared with you now. I don't know if you receive it on your handle. Okay, so I've also sent in your Gmail and your WhatsApp also, it's there. I don't know which one is faster, but I've sent both. I've sent both. I have sent both, so I don't know which one. Okay, okay. So sorry about that. Yeah. You have it now? Yes, I can see. I can see the slide. Okay, that is fine. So I start all over again. I continue. Okay, so again, this is where we are describing what is agrometeorology. And as I said, or as we all know, agrometeorology links climate, weather, and agricultural production. And now the application of it is simply the application of meteorological information in agriculture. This helps our farmers to manage risks, particularly climate risks. It supports decision making, such as planting, such as irrigation, fertilizer use, pest control, and so on and so forth, including within the livestock production industry, where you look at the timing of calving, mating, milking, and the rest. For poultry, it's also important the knowledge of agricultural meteorology. It affects, we also know that extreme heat affects poultry production and other livestock industry. It is also essential for climate smart agriculture and food security. When we talk about food availability, access to food, food utilization, and stability, and the climate knowledge of climate change and vulnerability can affect these four pillars of, or the four dimension of security, that is availability, access, stability, and utilization. Because extreme weather events can affect utilization strongly, whereby food, if not properly utilized, including water, can become a poison. So this is very, very essential. Understanding of agrometeorology help us to understand biodiversity loss, and climate change affects production from in all across the value chain, from the farm to table. Now, next. Now, why capacity building matters in agrometeorology? We need to understand why does this matter in agricultural meteorology. One, strong agricultural agrometeorological capacity reduce the vulnerability to climates, either climate variability or climate change. Now, increasing climate variability affects yield. So we need to have strong, we need to build our capacity in agrometeorology to understand this variability and how it affects our yield. It helps farmers need timely and accurate advisory. So having this capacity, strong capacity in agrometeorology, help us to understand the farmers' needs for timely and accurate advisory. Now, many regions, including Africa, Asia, and the rest, we lack a sufficient trained personnel and tools in agrometeorology. So that is why we need to build our capacity so that we increase the level of personnel that have understanding and also the tools required for agricultural meteorology. It enhances resilience, productivity, and early warning systems. When we have a good knowledge of agrometeorology, it helps to strengthen the resilience, it increases productivity, and also build a strong early warning system, particularly for those in vulnerable areas in our rural community. The issue of climate building is not optional, just like we are doing today, and I want to thank this forum. It is not optional. It is fundamental in modern agriculture. So we need to make sure that we build our capacity across board. Next slide, please. Now, there are core components. I looked at it and break them into 4 in building capacity in agricultural meteorology. Number 1 is human capacity, just like we are doing today. We need to build the capacity of the meteorologists themselves, because as meteorologists, our agmets, you need to build your capacity because of the changing or the dynamics of weather and climate. So you need to constantly, and the evolving tools. So you need to build your capacity to be up your game. Now, there are also, as meteorologists, we need to build our capacity not only in the science, but in communicating our findings to the end users, particularly the rural farmers, in a format they will understand. So we need to train our extension officers or extension workers to understand climate and how to communicate this information to the end users, because they are the intermediary. Then we need to build the capacity of farmers, just like we do with Metagri and the Farmers Field School and other examples across the globe. We need the farmers also to understand that the weather is changing. There's a lot of variability, right? Because what they were doing 10 years ago, there are changes. So we need to understand these things. Right? So when we are able to build capacity, human capacity across this value chain, that is the meteorologists, the intermediaries, that are extension workers, including the media, and the farmers, then that is one aspect of capacity building. 2, institutional capacity. We need to strengthen national meteorological services, research institute, because most of the national meteorological services, particularly in some region of the world, South Asia, Africa, you find out that agrometeorology, apart from India and some Malaysia and the rest, you find out that the national met services don't have a well-defined agricultural meteorology. So we need to build that within the institution so that they understand, because the traditional meteorology is different from agricultural meteorology. So we need to have that institutional development. Then our research institute are very, very vital. So institutional capacity within the research institute, particularly agri-research institutes, understanding the linkages between the research institute and the national met institute, where data exchange and data sharing is key. it's very, very important. Then thirdly, technical capacity. We need to build capacity in terms of the tools we use. Weather stations, are they enough across this region, South Asia, Africa, globally? What are the gaps? We need to understand the gaps and fill those gaps. The models that we are using in agricultural metrologies, what are the new models currently in use, and what are those models that are within research institute that we need to domesticate within the services so that it becomes operational. For example, you have models, crop models for crop calendar, crop models, different crop models. How do we make sure that these crop models are being institutionalized within the agromet community, that in every country these models are run and we get tailored advisories to our end users? Then we need to develop ICT platforms whereby information sharing from institutions where these are generated, how do we get them to the end user, the farmers in the field? How do we make sure that there is, we have ICT connectivity whereby they can get it either through SMSs or through format they are, depending on the location, they will understand. Then we are talking about artificial intelligence and machine learning. How do we incorporate, build our capacity that with an artificial intelligence, a farmer can query and we can get instant information that is tailored to his location, to his farm. He can specific information to using chatbots and the rest, and in the language that he understands, right? When the farmer queries in the language, his or her local languages, he can get response, immediate response. So we can use artificial intelligence, machine learning to make sure that this information gets to the end users. Then community capacity. How do we integrate local knowledge into agricultural metrologies? Because what indigenous knowledge, we have them there. How do we build capacity within the communities that are using their local knowledge, using things like farmers field school and climate field schools, so that we'll be, once we're able to build capacity across these three core components, I think we'll make some inroad. So next slide, please. Now, what are the key skills? What are the key skills that are required? Next slide. Yeah. What are the key skills required in agrometeorologists? So the key skill, I have broken them down into 6 components. 1, weather and climate data interpretation. Now, as meteorologists or scientists, we keep having this data, but how do we interpret it to the format that, how do we develop our skills that this information are interpreted to the end users very clearly, that he will understand this data? How do you interpret them? It's very, very key. So for you to be an agrometeorologist, you need to understand or know how to interpret weather and climate data. 2, you must have some skills in seasonal forecasting. This is key. Agriculture is seasonal. So how do you build your skill to understand seasonal forecasting? 3, you need to have some knowledge of crop models within your region, adaptable to the kind of production within. An example, we have this absent, Sarah age, and so on and so for different crop models. So you need to have, as an agrometeorologist, you need to have this skill on crop models, available crop models, and the ones that can be used. Also, the important skill is GIS and remote sensing, because you'll be getting a lot of big data, and this big data comes from remote sensing data from big centers, satellite data, and the rest. And how do you use GIS tool to interpret or to work with big data? This is a very important skill that is required in agricultural metrology. Then thirdly, communication of advisory in farmers-friendly format. As agricultural meteorologists, yes, you know how to interpret weather and climate data, you know you are good at seasonal forecasting, you understand crop models, you're good at GIS, But this communication is fundamental. And recently on the WMO site, there's the agricultural communication training module. I encourage you to get that training module. It's very, very important to understand how to communicate your forecasting, climate data, crop models, your remote sensing data to farmer-friendly formats. That is a skill every agrometeorologist should have, that this communication is key. Then 3, as agricultural meteorology, you need to understand risk assessment and early warning. Within the community where you are, what are the risks? How do you map out those risks, climate risks affecting production within that community? And how do you develop an early warning system that looked at those risks? So having these skills and others is key, but I brought out this 6 fundamental skill as required for agricultural meteorology. So this is what makes you a good agricultural meteorologist: having weather and data interpretation knowledge, seasonal forecasting, crop modeling, knowledge of GIS, and importantly, and I have to emphasize this, communication skill of communicating advisories in farmer-friendly format. This is an important skill. And finally, risk assessment and early warning for it's also an important skill. Next slide, please. And it's important to note that technical skill must be paired with communication skills. This is very, very important. Now, what are the tools? I've mentioned them passively then. What are the tools? Because once you have these skills, what are the necessary tools you have? So I don't know, this schematic is probably clear enough. Number 1 is automatic weather stations. So in a country, in a region, you need to have a good network of weather station, and preferably automatic weather station. This is an important tool. Then 2, you need satellite data, rainfall estimates, temperature, NDVI, so on and so forth. Another important tool, it's how do we get these advisories to the farm? A mobile advisory platform like SMS, WhatsApp, IVR is very important. Then thirdly, you need a decision support system tool. And finally, you need a climate information portal. Like in countries, you have a portal where you can click and get information online. In my country, we have the map room where you can, it's a climate information portal. So when you have these tools and technology with the farmer in the center, these are necessary tools for you to be able to execute your work as an agrometeorologist. So automatic weather station, access to satellite data, big data, a mobile advisory platform where you can generate SMSs or WhatsApp or IVR, internet voice. So this is very, very important. You can link it up to farmers. So having this with the farmer in the center, these are very essential too, because we have technology in our hands now. So how do we use this technology with our automatic weather station to bring advisories to farmers? This may differ from country to country, but at least these are just examples of tools put together that are necessary in agrometeorology. Next slide, please. Now, what are the key approach? Because there must be an approach if we want to build capacity in agrometeorology. What are the key approach? 1, in no particular order, we should, as agrometeorology, as you're doing within this forum, regularly have training workshops like this. This is very, very key. Having such training workshop, it helps to build your capacity, build your knowledge, and with evolving, discussing, sharing knowledge across board. And there are also certification programs. I know on the FAO site. There's a lot of certification program that can help build agrometeorology. Also within WMO, there are some modules also you can help, and you get certification on them, and some others within countries, different certification. So I encourage this, a very good approach in capacity building, where you have training workshop and certification program. 2, farmer field schools or climate field schools, depending on countries. This is very, very essential. Some years back, the Metagri, WMO Metagri project was an example of a farmers field school, where farmers are trained and given some farmers rain gauges to be taking data and sharing, discussing. This is also good. And also we have the participatory integrated climate information for agriculture, which that is the PIXA project. I think it's there are documents. It's University of Reading. I think there's a link you can get. PIXA. It's a very, very good approach in building capacity within community extension. Then the on-farm demonstration. This is very, very key in agrometeorology, because you can sit in your lab and not go to the farm to do demonstration. This will help bring farmers and meteorologists together, extension officers together to look at. Then digital learning tool, I've mentioned some of them, WMO platform, FAO platform, a lot of them, a lot of digital learning platform are there. It's important that as agrometeorologists we build our capacity. Then the public-private partnership, this is key. It's evolving. We need to partner with the private sector, both public and private sector, build our capacity in such a way that we can get information to the end user. Remember that all we are doing is having farmers at the center, and this is very, very key. So we have some private companies that are into extension, some are even into meteorological product and services. So we can partner both public and private sector, including development partners, to make sure that we get build our capacity along this area, how to partner and get this information to the end users. Then the South-South knowledge exchange, like this, there's a need for us to exchange knowledge. What is happening in South Asia, what is happening in Africa, North Africa, South Africa, what's happening in Latin America. So we can share this South-South knowledge to see what's how we can do knowledge exchange, build our capacity. I know colleagues in Brazil, Argentina, we do share knowledge with some of us in Africa and also in India. So this kind of knowledge exchange is very, very important and can help. And when we can adopt these 3 approaches as an institution, as organization, as association, this 6 approaches can help build our capacity. Next slide, please. Now, importantly, what is the role of extension in all we are doing in building this capacity as agrometeorologists? To identify, we as agrometeorologists do once in a while we go to the farm, but the extension service has a big role to play. And we need to understand that one of the key role they play is translate technical forecast to actionable service. So how do we ensure that extension services in our country, in our region, in our provinces are able to translate this forecast to actionable advices? So as this capacity. Now, they serve as a bridge between meteorological agencies and farmers. So if we have a group extension serving as that bridge, then we need to also work closely with them to build their capacity for us to have a strong bridge. Because once that bridge is weak, then that communication is reduced, so it's weakened. So we need to make sure that we strengthen that bridge. We build the knowledge of extension, that is making sure that they understand meteorological information clearly and they understand the needs of farmers, so that bridge will be very strong. we also need to ensure that extension services provide feedbacks to improve our forecast as meteorologists, because you keep giving forecasts. If you miss that loop, then there's a gap. So you should make sure that you build the capacity of the extension, that they don't only take information to the farmers, but they give you feedback, and that is the only way we can improve our products and services. Also, need to make sure that extension service supports the adoption of climate smart practices. So whatever the extension they are doing or they are involved in, we need to ensure that the adoption of climate smart practices is key. So the loop is forecast to extension, extension to farmers, and extension also bring feedback back to the forecaster. So that way, if we're able to understand the role of extension service and work with them, understanding their key roles, then we'll be able to strengthen agrometeorological services in our countries or our provinces. Next slide, please. What are the challenges? Because all I've been talking about is, so what are the challenges in agrometeorological capacity building? So there are key challenges. Number one, which we are all facing in some of us, let me not say all of us, limited fund and infrastructure. Because to carry out agrometeorologists, you need to get close to the farmers. At times, you have to go to the field. This involves some funds. So there are limited funds. So we need to know that this is a big challenge. And also infrastructure. How do you make the infrastructure that from your office, if you generate a forecast, how does it get to the rural farmers, the ones that they had to reach areas on time? Because our products are perishable. So we need to make sure that this information gets to them on time and in a usable format. So we need some level of infrastructure. You need, how do you get an SMS from your forecast to the end user? How do you get it either through WhatsApp? Does the farmers have those tools in their hands? If you're going to use the radio, how do you link up the Met Institute with the radio station that gets? So this infrastructure and funding issues is key. 2, inadequate data coverage. What is the amount of ground stations you need per location to effectively get good forecasts to the farmers? At the weather station in density in the country or in the province good enough for agricultural meteorology? This is a huge gap we've noticed across the board, particularly in these regions we are talking. Low digital literacy among farmers. This is also an issue because the information can come as an SMS. Does the farmer understand it clearly? Does he know how to use the digital tool? 3, weak coordination between institutions. There's a weak coordination between probably the National Met Institute, the Research Institute, the Farmer Extension Agency, the communication, the telecommunication companies, the radio station, and so on and so forth. So there need to be a strong, and this is a huge challenge I've noticed over the years in my years of operation. So this coordination needs to be strengthened. Then language and communication barrier. What is the language you use to do the forecast? Is the same language the farmer understand at the rural area? How do you make sure that you bridge? And this has been a barrier we've seen over the years. And these are some of the challenges I'm able to bring out. I know there are much more than this. If we discuss, probably this may come up in the discussion session. But addressing these challenges requires systemic investment. We need to invest in a systemic way, in such a way that we'll be able to address this. We need to make sure that with limited resources, how do we get this infrastructure? How do we increase our data coverage? How do we build the capacity of our farmers used on digital tools? How do we build institutional coordination through the multidisciplinary working group or things like that? How do we get, probably if we get to understand the local language, how do we use AI to make sure that if I'm sending the information in English. How does it translate to the local language of the farmers? Next slide, please. Strengthening capacity. Now, this is key. What are the strategies to use to strengthen our capacity? Now, these are a few strategies of mine we may discuss more. One, allocate resources to enhance weather monitoring system. We talk about the number of weather stations, institute stations are limited. So we need to strategically allocate resources to enhance monitoring system. This is key for early warning. This is key to agrometeorology. We need to create targeted agro advisory services for local communities. For local communities, it should not be national, it should not be too global. For every local community, we need to have targeted agro advisory services. Then three, we need to foster collaboration among government bodies, among non-governmental organizations, and the private sector. We cannot run away from bringing in the private sector in agrometeorology. So we need to foster that collaboration. We need to encourage active participation of young people in agrometeorology, because we've noticed over the years that the interest in agriculture is becoming low among the youths, among the young ones. So we need to encourage their participation. We need to make it more interactive. We need to make it more interesting to them. How do we take agrometeorology into Instagram, for example, and to get the buy-in of the young generation? This is very, very big. What get them engaged? How to bring animation into it? Something that will interest the youth, to spark something into them. This is very, very key. We need to incorporate climate services framework within the national agricultural strategies. We know there's the global framework for climate services. In some countries, we already have the national framework. So how do we align it with the national agricultural strategies in our countries? You have your own, each of your own country, you have the agricultural strategy. How do you align it? You incorporate climate services as a framework within the agricultural services. This is very, very key. Next slide, please. Okay, so this next slide talk about the expected outcome. If we strengthen our capacity, what do we want? Which is more importantly, if we have a strong and a robust agrometeorological services, it will improve in our provinces, in our localities, in our countries, the crop yield, and it will also reduce losses. That is key. Two, it will better help us to prepare for extreme weather events, because we can't stop them from happening, but it will help us better prepare. What are based on agrometeorology, what are the kind of things to be done within that community to reduce the effect of extreme event? It will help in the efficient use of water, efficient use of resources like water, fertilizer, and other inputs in agriculture. Because once you have a good knowledge or good, strong agrometeorological services within that community and advisory, the efficient use of resources will be enhanced. Then we will now talk about a community, a region with strong food security. And when we have a strong food security within the community, then we'll be talking about our farmers, our communities being very, very empowered. That means they can stand on their own. Next slide, please. In conclusion, while thanking this community for giving me this platform, I want us to understand that building capacity in agrometeorology is essential for climate resilient agriculture and sustainable food system. Because when you talk about resilient food agriculture in one hand, then sustainable food system, the whole system itself, from production to the table, it's a whole system, the value chain. So on a good and a big agrometeorological services will help have a sustainable food system. So we need to, one, invest in people, invest in tools, invest in the institution. Two, we need to strengthen communication channels. This is coming up again. We need to strengthen our communication channels. We need to promote continuous learning as we are doing today. This is very, very important. And finally, we need to ensure farmers are at the center of all our climate services. With this, I want to thank you for this opportunity to share these few slides with you, and thank you for your attention. And as I said, with the permission of the organizers, this will be interactive. There might be questions, communication. I thank you for good listening. Thank you. Yeah.
I want to congratulate James. Very well presentation, very good information you sent to us. And I ask if we can have your PowerPoint presentation to share with the extension service how they should work together with us. Very good presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Brolini. Thank you so much for those kind words.
Yeah, it's a congratulations to Nabansu. You managed Dr. James and Orivaldo, the father figure in current agrometeorology. They are the real hero of practical agrometeorology, operational agrometeorology. So we are enriched with the presence of Brunini and the talk by James. Congratulations and thanks and kudos to Nabansu for managing without any funding. That's wonderful.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nabansu. This was a very good presentation. If possible, please share it with us. Thank you very much.
Okay, I want to sincerely appreciate this the Southeast Forum for Agrometeorology. This is a wonderful initiative, and as Surrender said, with zero fund, you're doing such a great work. Thank you, and I want to appreciate other members of the SC Ag for making themselves available. I know tomorrow Miriam will be speaking, and I want to assure you that we will always support you in any way we can to ensure that this is sustainable and to make sure that we don't leave anyone behind. Thank you so much for everyone that has been on this call, for patiently listening to us. I know in some part of the world it's already very late. Thank you so much. As for me, I am in the field. I'm going out to the field right now to do a farmers field school. So I practice what I speak. So I thank you so much. Yes. All right. All right. I thank you and have